Welcome to the Stress-Free Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. As always, I want to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. My goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And check out all of my nonfiction and children's books on Amazon, and check out the stressfreedentist.com for any upcoming events. And if you're feeling you're a dental professional that's burnt out, or you just feel stuck or want to get to that next level, visit the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches or www.iadlc.com, and we'll get you matched up with a life coach that understands dentistry. I also wanted to thank our amazing sponsor, Equa Marketing. They have helped me and my practice over the years to improve with SEO and website performance. And to find out how you can make your practice dominate in your area, go to www.equa.com/MSMSFD to book your complimentary meeting. Again, that's www.ekwa.com/MSMSFD. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode. And today I am joined by Dr. Kyle Stanley. Kyle, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to finally meet you. I've seen you all over the place on, social media and everything you've done for the dental world, being a dentist, tech world, investment world. And now I love what you're up to. You're out there speaking about burnout, which is something, that I really struggled with. So I want to get into all your advice that you have for the dentists out there. But can we first just start with how you even decided to become a dentist?
Yeah, sure. My dad's a dentist. My brother's a dentist. Growing up, I never really thought I wanted to be a dentist. I wanted to be an artist. I grew up, I loved drawing. I was a professional dancer as a kid. I was a musician. I was in a touring rock band. So art was kind of everything, art and performance. And then when I kind of the end of high school, I was really starting to get interested in the human body, in like the study of beauty and all that kind of stuff. And so I studied biology, and my hopes was to be a plastic surgeon. And so I went to my dad and said, Dad, I'd like to be a plastic surgeon. He said, oh, cool. Well, I don't know any plastic surgeons, but I know a friend who's an oral surgeon, and maybe you can go, hang out with him and see if you like surgery. And so I did, and I just fell in love with oral surgery. I just absolutely loved it. That doctor became an early mentor for me. I ended up working as an assistant. I became a certified oral surgery assistant, and just kind of fell in love with dentistry at that point.
And where did you go to dental school?
I went to dental school at USC in Southern California, and then I went to Brazil and did my implant residency, implant specialty. So in Brazil, I'm a specialist. In the US, I'm a general dentist, and it's been a fun ride.
Can you tell me more about the Brazil specialty?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to learn implants. I knew I wanted to get more into surgery. So I talked to my mentor, a guy named Pascal Magnier at the time, and Pascal said, well, you can go to Switzerland. I can get you into an implant program there, or you can go to Brazil. And in Brazil, that's where Dr. Brandemark is teaching. So if you want to learn from the best, maybe you should go to Brazil, because the Brazilians are really leading in implant dentistry. So I did that. And I learned Portuguese and studied in Portuguese, and just had a great time in Brazil. I mean, it's an amazing dental community. So it was the surgical and the prosthetic side.
How long was that program?
That was like a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. I did something very similar. I graduated from Nova Southeastern in '02, and I knew I just wasn't ready to go out into the real world. And I too wanted to learn about implants because I knew that was going to be part of the future of dentistry. So I did a implant residency at BU, which isn't really around anymore. I broke the sacred match. I got matched with a GPR at Tufts and
Uh-huh.
broke that sacred bond, and did the implant residency at BU. And same thing, we did prosto and the restorative and surgical aspects. And
Yeah.
I've been doing implants for 20 years, so I love it.
Yeah. No, it's fun.
And so tell me, after the residency, did you start up your own practice? Did you associate for a while?
Yeah, I associated for about 3 years. I worked with my dad a little bit. I worked in DSOs. I worked in private practices. I was teaching at the university 1 day a week too. So it was there that my now business partner, who was my friend in dental school, we were teaching together with Pascal Magnier at USC. And we always talked about doing a practice together. And then one day he came to me and said, "Hey, I think I found the practice." And so we ended up buying a practice in Beverly Hills. And yeah, that's how that started. And it was, I was still associating at the time. I was still working at the Global Institute for Dental Education with Sasha Jovanovic, who was kind of my surgical mentor. And yeah, going back and forth, it was fun, but private practice is challenging.
You know what else can be challenging is starting up an office with your best friend or a friend.
Yeah.
I have a partner right now, and it's like a marriage. There's ups and downs, and sometimes you don't see things the same way. And partnerships
hmm
are not always easy. There's a lot of pluses and minuses. Did you guys find any hiccups there?
Partnerships are challenging. The good thing that I have is with my partner, Matt Najad, he's very open to having the difficult conversations, which I wasn't at the beginning. He would be like, "Listen, Kyle, we need to talk about this. Something's weird. And, this isn't fair to me. This isn't fair to you," or something like this. And I was kind of like, I didn't want to have those conversations. You're my friend. And I'm so glad we did because, especially with my career, I ended up transitioning. I was speaking a lot, and then I was starting Pearl, so I was out of the practice, and then, I was transitioning kind of out of clinical dentistry over many years, and we had these conversations and ended up figuring it out. So I think the thing with having a partnership is you have to be open to having good conversation. Just like you said, it's just like a marriage, right? I mean, if you have a good marriage, you're open to having these difficult conversations. And that's why I'm so thankful for Matt that we're still friends, we're still business partners. I just talked to him yesterday for an hour on Sunday morning while I was making breakfast. And it's worked out well for us.
That's great. Now, tell me about your style of practice. Personally, I have a family practice. We've gone fully out of network this year, but I see families. We're part of the community. We have 9 ops. I do everything from crowns and fillings to implants and sleep apnea. What was your practice like?
Yeah, our practice is, I think, very different. Very high end, very low volume. Each doctor sees one patient at a time, works out of one room. We use rubber dam on everything, guided surgery on everything. Take a long time. We're very slow in that sense. So it's a different style of practice for sure, fully out of network. Our practice has been there since the 1960s. So we have, multiple generations. I wouldn't call it really like a family practice in that sense because we usually don't see children unless it's something very cosmetic that, like, a pedodontist probably wouldn't do, or they really insist on seeing us and they're well behaved. So, we mostly see adults. We see a lot of older adults too. Our age group has transitioned down since we've bought the practice. I think it was fairly high. You have the like celebrities and high net worth individuals, especially where we are in LA, that really wanted high quality and wanted to feel important. So with that, it's good and bad with everything, right? With that, you have some fussy people, but you also have people that are quality driven and are willing to pay for it too. So we never had the frazzled mind that I think my dad did. My dad worked out of 3 chairs plus hygiene. He was, fair price, fair quality. And we are high price, high quality is what we tried to do. So it's definitely different.
Now, with that, you mentioned some difficult people. Does that type of dentistry cause, a lot of stress, especially as a young dentist, where, a lot of these patients are looking for almost for perfection? Was
Yeah.
was a lot of that hard in the beginning? Did you learn how to temper expectations?
Well, I didn't until I went through burnout. So that was one of the reasons I think why I went through burnout was because I wasn't setting the right expectations. And when you have someone who's paying a lot of money, maybe double or triple what they would pay in the other dentist down the hall, literally, there's 52 dentists in my building that, they're expecting something great. And most of the time, any dentist, we do things that are pretty good, right? But you do have that 2 to 4% maybe that you have a complication with, and something fractures, or there's sensitivity, or the bite's not right, or the color didn't work out the first time. And so I don't think I underpromised enough. And what I should have done was set low expectations and then blew those out of the water 98% of the time. And that was definitely contributed to my downfall.
Tell me more about this burnout. When did it start? How did you know it was even happening? Walk me through that.
Yeah, I was about 7 years into practice when it started to happen. I came home one day and told my wife that I wanted to quit. Was how it started. I said, I can't do it anymore. It's too stressful. It's not worth the money. At the time I was making good money and, doing good treatment, but it just wasn't worth the stress for me. That year, within the last year, I had been threatened to be sued by a team member, been threatened to be sued by a patient, been extorted by a patient, had debilitating back pain, was missing holidays and important things with my kids. And I think I finally just realized what was important in life. And so I went on this journey, and I'm a research nerd. I was a university professor for 9 years. I like to publish a lot. I like to read research. So I went directly to PubMed and just started reading about why do I feel like this, the science behind overachievers, the study of positivity, evolutionary biology, the science of communication. And I went through this journey and totally changed my life. And because I had a platform, because I was speaking, 20, 30 times a year, I started speaking for 10 minutes at the end of every lecture that I was giving. So, let's say I was giving a guided surgery lecture or a smile design lecture for 5 hours, but the last 10 minutes I'd talk about mental health and burnout. And after the lecture was over, that's what everyone came up and talked to me about, was just that last 10 minutes. Oh yeah, the case you did was cool, but gosh, that last 10 minutes really, yeah, I'm going through that right now, or my husband or my wife or my kid or my colleague or, my business partner is going through that right now. And then I realized there was a big need to talk about this more. And I felt like it was upon me to talk about this because I had somewhat of a platform. So it's been the most rewarding thing I've done in dentistry. And I've done some cool stuff in dentistry, but definitely the most rewarding thing that I've done is help other colleagues with burnout and try to normalize it, really.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I similarly about, yeah, 7 to 10 years, maybe was right around that time where I wanted to do anything but dentistry. I regretted uh, my decision to become a dentist. I wanted to do anything. I would have worked in a cubicle and not have to talk to people. And actually, I was so afraid of getting sued that I wanted to go to law school and become a lawyer so I could do the suing.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah.
and
We have to practice this defensive dentistry, which is something you always have in the back of your head, which is so annoying, right? I mean, we should treatment plan what's best for the patient, but sometimes we have to think, well, that might be best, but it's kind of risky. And in this case, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want this to happen. And so sometimes you have guilt about that. And it's just something that's always looming over you in the United States and in some other countries too.
for me, the eureka moment was I picked up the phone and called a local therapist and just started digging in. Was that day you came home and you told your wife you didn't want to do this anymore, and the action of starting to research this, was that kind of your eureka moment?
Yeah, I was forced into having this big revelation, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that I wish didn't have to be forced, but I see this all the time where it's like no one moves until you're at rock bottom because you kind of don't realize you're going down. I realized I was starting to be more reactive. My health was in a poor place. My team relationships, I was, having arguments with patients. Like it started to happen, and I don't think I realized it until I was at that low point. So I was kind of forced into it. It really was quit or figure yourself out and figure out a way to continue doing this. And I think because so many dentists have the golden handcuffs on to where we've put so much time and effort and money and debt potentially into getting to this profession that we have to figure it out. I mean, there are dentists that leave the profession for sure, but most of us want to continue doing it. Most of us like dentistry. I mean, even when I was ready to quit, I still loved dentistry. I was still passionate about dentistry. It was just all the shit that came with being a dentist. It wasn't the dentistry. It wasn't the clinical part. I loved that part. It was staff management and, threatened to being sued and managing money and setting expectations and setting boundaries and working on my communication. That was the stuff I was poor at. I mean, I was like most of us, I was pretty good as a dentist because that was what I spent all my time on was being better clinically. But that's not where I suffered.
Yeah, I feel like, becoming a dentist and in dental school, we have this clear path. You do well, you get good grades, you take the DAT, you pass your classes, your boards. And if you don't, you just study harder and
Yeah.
you take it again. And a lot of us aren't used to making mistakes or failures. And then you get out into the real world and you get boom, a crown doesn't fit, a patient's upset, you get a bad review, you get like with you get threatened to be sued.
Mhm.
And that can be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of dentists that have only known working hard and success their whole life.
Yeah, most dentists have never failed until they're in dentistry. And I saw this in dental school, which was people failing a test for their first time. And now they're 22, 23. They've never failed a test their entire life. And they're crying in the hallway. They're calling their mom. They're, thinking about quitting. In dental school, I saw that. I did I did okay in dental school. So I didn't like you said, I didn't have those failures until I was in practice, whether that was when I was an associate or having my own business, which comes with more responsibility.
Yeah, and tell me about Lightside Academy.
Yeah, so Lightside Academy was really created because people were asking me. I was talking about burnout. I was posting about it. I was talking about it in my lectures, my live lectures, and people were saying, "Oh my gosh, that's so me. Like, tell me what you did. Or, do you have any resources on it?" At the time, I didn't. And then it really took COVID happening to where I had, a few weeks off like everyone else did, wasn't really doing much. And I created it and thought maybe now's the time. So it's been super rewarding. I mean, we've had over 1,500 dentists from around the world go through it. It's 5 CE credits, so that makes me happy that people can get CE for learning about mental health and setting expectations and communication and understanding themselves. Fully online course, go at your own time. I also run a few masterminds too that meet once or twice a month with dentists around the world. It's kind of like we call it a mastermind, but it's really like a support group. It's really like a support group of like-minded people that are open, talking about their challenges with patients or team members or back pain or, anything they're going through, parenting and being a dentist on the same side. So now I'm really fully focused on this. I mean, besides my work as an advisor for tech companies and working with investment funds, helping dentists with mental health is my main focus.
Yeah, I too suffered from. I had major. I had a labral tear on my left shoulder, and I
Ooh,
had major trapezius pain for like 10 years, and I had surgery, but it didn't get better. And when you are in pain, you are not a happy camper.
chronic pain
Um,
is challenging, and 87 to 90% of practicing dentists have chronic pain.
mhm. And pain is pain. If you're in physical pain, you're in mental pain. And I really uh, made some changes in the way I practice, and I really don't have much pain anymore. But
Good for you.
yeah, it's it's that can be a major contributor. All right, I want to wrap up with two final questions. Number one is how do we find out more about what you're up to? And number two, what advice would you give to the young dentists out there?
Yeah, so two easy ways to get in touch with me. One is my Instagram. It's just Dr. Kyle Stanley, Dr. Kyle Stanley, or my website, drkylestanley.com. Same thing, drkylestanley.com. That has all of my links to my podcast, my tech company, my research articles, my lectures, all the other stuff that I do. Um, the advice that I would give to, let's say, a young dentist or a dental student or someone that's out of it is not to align your purpose in life with your profession. This was what I did incorrectly. I thought, I would put on this earth to do dentistry. And that sounds good, but then if you have, like you said, a crown that comes off, or if you have a patient that's unhappy, or the shade doesn't work the first time, you think you're a failure, like something's wrong with you, not something happened with the case. No one loves dentistry like another dentist. I mean, I love dentistry. I'm so passionate about it. But I had to put it in its place and realize I love you, I'm passionate about you, but you're not who I am. And that was a big turning point for me when I could finally do that. And that's probably my biggest advice for young dentists or any dentist out there.
Yeah, I think that's great. I too was all I knew was dentistry, and right after the quarantine, I started doing other things and getting involved as a KOL and speaking and podcasts and books and investing and writing articles. And to me, I wish I'd done other things than just being a dentist so much earlier. Having these side gigs has really helped me with my main gig, which is dentistry, to have other things going on. So I think that is great advice. Kyle Stanley, what a great episode. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for listening to the Stress Free Dentist podcast. And don't hesitate to get in touch with me at info@thestressfreedentist.com. And if you haven't already, please subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Until the next episode, I'm Dr. Eric Block, the Stress Free Dentist.